it would be probably useful for me to kind of go through this thing, because I'm still trying to discover what happened. I feel still a little lost and bewildered, and I don't quite get it. And that's a common thing for me in my life, is that like some things, I mean, just politically, like I can't get how people don't see that politician's a liar. You know what I mean? I don't get it. And so for me, if I was going to write something, the concept of the title would be how I got into Scientology and why I got out. As a little kid, I'm talking about even before I could talk, I can remember being interested in people, really interested in people. And I was pretty shiny, and everybody wanted to, you know, pick him up and all this crap, and I didn't like that. And and I could see people. I felt like I understood who somebody was pretty well as a little guy, and I didn't have any kind of, I might have had some judgment on it, but I didn't have a condemnation like, oh, I just thought, okay, that's Dad, not just Daddy, but oh, okay, that's that guy, and that's Uncle Gino, and this is this guy at the party as a 3-4-year-old kid looking around. And at a certain point, I think, certainly before first grade, I became very, very interested in who am I? Not just, you know, oh, that's that guy I know, but I had some kind of a perception about a person. And so and as a little kid, I remember, because the way I could get how I perceived the people in front of me, whether it was accurate or not, I believed it was true, was kind of by looking into their eyes and saying who they are. And so I remember as a little kid looking in the mirror, really not looking at how do I look, looking and trying to say, who am I? And I would say, who are you? Who are you? You know, as a 5-6-year-old kid, I remember 8 years old, was pretty intense. And I never got it. And I just thought, well, I guess that's the life condition, that you know, it's too hard to self-perceive. So this was a question that was always, you know, and then I went up and as I was growing up, and I played the fool and did normal stupid things and drugs and whatever. But it was always something that was in the back of my mind, and I was always on a spiritual journey one way or another, you know, either some new age shit, not a lot of organized religion. By the time I was 14 or something, I'd kind of lost interest in that, you know, but I would read a lot, and even to the point where as a 21-year-old kid, I mean, I remember I was into this spiritual teaching of this one guy who was originally teaching in French, and I learned French just so I could read it in the original French. You know, so it was important to me, but it was all based on who am I? And it kind of, I guess, that Greek know thyself type of philosophy. So somehow I got into Scientology, which was Bodhi Elfman was in my acting class. And my acting teacher, who's a big disseminator, Milton Kitselis, was ranting about some shit, and which was pissing me off because it was wasting class. It was like nobody, you guys are auditioning me or something. He was pissed off, and he wanted more unmitigated just adoration, and he wasn't feeling like he was getting it. And in the middle of his tirade, I was sitting there, like, first thinking, who are these fucking people that are not, you know, flowing the correct amount of attention to the master? And then I looked and I said, I wonder if I am. And I said, do I trust Milton? And I said, you know what, I really don't. And that was kind of like a weird thing. I said, well, I don't. And I thought, who do I trust? I said, well, at least my parents. No, I don't trust them. And I was looking, I didn't trust anybody in the room. And then I had this realization is I don't trust myself. And so in Scientologies, I found my ruin. I found my own ruin. And for some reason, because I thought, oh, well, let me try and trust somebody. Let me try and trust Milton, which is what he was yelling and crying about in this whole big speech. And I thought, well, I knew he was a Scientologist. So I said, Bodhi, I said, give me some book on Scientology. I was doing a scene with him. And oh yeah, and he was this nervous little kid at the time. And so he gave me this big fat book called What is Scientology? A lot of pictures. And so I took this book and I read it. I think I stayed up mostly of the night and I read the thing. I mean, you know, I don't know if I got it word for word. I didn't clear all my MUs for sure. But I got through the thing. And I thought, okay, if that's true, fuck, I'll go clear. I'll try that. That sounds fine. So I gave Bodhi the book back the next day. I said, take me to that big castle thing. I want to check this shit out. So he's always very excited, you know. He brings me in and everybody's all excited and they've greased the path because, you know, I've been on TV and shit. And everybody's really nice. And I figured I want to do this Purif thing because I'd done drugs and I could feel them in my body. And I read the thing, what the Purif's supposed to do. I said, you know, I had felt at that point like I hadn't done drugs for 10, 15 years. And I thought that was one of the biggest mistakes I'd made in my life. And I thought if this can really take that effect away, because I felt that I had lost some of the shine that I'd had by, you know, I mean, I wasn't a drug addict, but I was a drug indulger. And so I go there basically planning on doing the Purif, but they've got to give this tour, and I must have gotten there at 10 in the morning, and I swear to God, I'm starting to go nuts. I've done tests. I'm on the cans with some lady. I'm like, fuck me, can I just buy this course and let's get going, you know? And then they do this, you know, thing, and they give me my personality test, and I was all on the top of the thing, and they're still telling me that I'm fucked up. And I'm like, look, and they want me to do this. Finally, they go through the, I mean, I must have been there 8 hours. I'm ready to pull my hair out. And they say, you should do some little course called Ups and Downs. I said, look, I'll do the course if I can I just do the Purif thing? Yes, 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 and you have to do the TRs and objectives first. Or with it. What's that? That's this course that kind of, I said, fine, just let's go. So I buy the course. I say, you know, I've been here. It's like 8:30 at night. And I say, can I start? And I had to get a little oral surgery, so let me do something. I came here for some Scientology. All I got was all this, everybody's selling it to me. I never got to do any, right? Because I wanted to try the shit. And so now it's 8:30 and I say, okay, you know, they say, well, you can start your TRs course. You'll do the TRs, you do and the TRs are these communication drills. Then you do the Purif where you clear all the drugs out, and then you do the auditing, which is called objectives, which is like this stuff where you walk across the room and touch the wall and all this kind of shit. And supposed to, the end phenomenon is firmly rooted in present time. I said, that doesn't sound bad, I'll do it. Okay, if you can deliver that. Cool. So I said, well, give me some Scientology, for Christ's sakes. I've been here since, 9 hours or something, getting nothing. So they say, okay, you can start your TRs course. So I go in and I do this thing called an M7, which is basically Bodhi and the supervisor are kind of helping me clear the words through. And the first thing I ever did in Scientology was read Keeping Scientology Working, which is a pretty heavy bulletin.
Yeah, explain what that bulletin says.
Well, it's that basically is that Scientology, it's a very interesting bulletin. At first, it's updated. So you're reading the updates. I think it was written in 1965, and it was updated in 70 and 75. And those updates are before you read the actual bulletin, and the updates are like L. Ron Hubbard just going bananas. This thing is true. It was true in 1965. It'll be true forever. If you just follow this, Scientology will never fail, and it will take over the universe and will save all mankind, and we're the only hope for the world. So just if you apply this one policy, everything will be fine. Now, in the bulk of the fucking policy is stuff of, you know, it's pretty heavy, you know, that if you're in Scientology an inch, you're in an ounce. I mean, you're in for the rest of you know, this is the billion-year contract shit. This is the heavy Scientology. We are the only hope for mankind, and whether you get it or not, it's the truth, and we're not here to placate you. We're here to try and save the planet, and they're the only hope for mankind, and so this is no game. So that was the first thing I got. I said, okay, you know, we'll see. I couldn't say, you know, I believe that, but it was an interesting, bold claim that made me say, okay, all the more. Is this shit really that good? Let's go. So here I am. I bought my little TRs and objectives and my Purif. And I said to the supervisor, because now by the time I finished that, it was 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, okay, well, when do we start? You know, she said, when can you come in to start the course, to finish up? I said, you know, let's start tomorrow. I said, I can be here 7 in the morning. I said, well, we don't start till 9. I said, you know, I'm come here to do something. I've been here all day. You guys say you got a product, you want to, you know? So she came in at 8 o'clock for me. So I came in and I just started. And I read all my shit in there and sounded good. And the first exercise is a thing called OT-TR0, which is basically where you sit 3 feet apart from somebody. You cannot have any thinking mechanism, and you close your eyes and you're totally relaxed, but there's another person 3 feet in front of you doing the exact same thing. And the exercise is to be in communication with that person and your environment, but fully, the key word is confronting, which is, he defines as facing without flinching. So without thinking anything, like if I'm doing it with you, I'm thinking, okay, Mark, he's got that beard and he's probably hiding by. Then I'm flunking, because I'm thinking, instead of just being there, without any thinking. And so I have to be able to be, and you do this, it says, until you get a major stable win. Okay? So I say, fuck it, okay, here's my first Scientology shit, and I'm there with some whoever, and I'm sitting there, and I'm facing him without flinching, and I had a major stable win. What I did, according to Scientologists, and I don't have any other nomenclature for it, so it would work for me, but I went exterior. So in other words, the concept would be your thetan, you, your soul, whatever you want to call it, that's who you are. You're not the body. I'm not Jason Beghe. Jason Beghe, it's like buying a new car. I'm the driver of the car, okay? So basically, I went exterior, and to get back to the beginning of my story, I felt for the first fucking time the biggest win in my life. I knew who I was. That question that I've been asking since I was cognizant. Who am I? I knew who I was. And this was huge for me. I said, wow. And this is not even that fucking auditing stuff they talk about. This is just some fucking, you know, some thing. Yeah. And I said, shit, that's awesome. So I was blown out of my socks, happy. Like, I was like, oh, so that's who I am. You know, because I knew I wasn't this thing, because I sometimes would have this personality. Sometimes I was a phony. Sometimes I was, you know, you never know if you're real or not, you know? But then there's those moments when, so it's like, who are you? You know, and I could see, I could create effects on people and stuff. This is all this growing up. I mean, it was really interesting. Why would this person like me? You know, I knew why I liked them, but why did they like me?
Well, you said back in class that you didn't trust yourself. Why didn't you trust yourself?
I didn't know who I was. So I go down and I say, okay, I want to buy this clear thing. I'm going to do that, because that's enough for me. I just go right there. No reg ever had to reg me. As a matter of fact, I used to reg the regs. They would fucking run, because I'd do things to them, you know, and stuff like that. I'd fuck with them. I like doing that. But at any rate, so I go to the reg, I say, I want to do this thing. And I figure it's going to be like, you know, between 5 and 10 grand. You know, because the Purif thing was like 1,100. Friggin' clear thing, it's going to be more. But I figured, what the fuck? I had a couple of bucks saved, and I said, what? Well, I buy the fucking, they tell me the price of the thing, and that's another thing. You know, the way they just can't say, you know, oh yeah, the clear, it's 1150. You know, it's like they just have to, they're not used to somebody just coming in and saying, let me get that thing. So that was hours and hours and hours. And of course, Bodhi, you know, is like, he's in there with me, and he's my FSM, and at that point, you know, he's going to get 10%, and he's excited, because, you know, he was broke at the time. And at any rate, it was like 50 grand. So within 3 weeks, within 3 days, and I probably had 60 grand in my name at that point. I plopped down 50. I said, let's go.
That's a huge commitment.
Well, and so that's everybody fell in love with me, and David Miscavige called me, and all that. Everybody, they started, you know, he wrote me a letter and all this shit. And, you know, everybody's got all this excitement about me. And then the other thing was that part of the reason it cost 50 grand also was because they said, you know, training. I said, what's fucking training? And they said, you mean I can't I just thought you sat there, you held those cans. I'd done it in the interview, it sounded easy. I say, and if it's going to be that great, and I remember reading what clear is and all that, sounds pretty fucking good. And all I'd done is sat there and I knew who I was. That's all I'd ever, which probably the biggest win I had in Scientology was on that first day. At any rate, so I go to, then they sell the training. I said, what's that? Well, you learn to be an auditor. I said, listen, you know, I'm an actor, I'm not an auditor. You know, that's cool. You know, blah, 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 and they're trying to get me to do this thing and buy a fucking e-meter. And I, you know, 3,000 what for that fucking thing? It looks like a fucking transistor radio. And, but I'm like, oh man, okay. But I trust them. I figure, you know, because they're delivering a thing. These are good people. You know what I mean? And I'm also looking at these people, and it's these decent people. They're decent, and I'm trusting. So, and they are. And so they sell me the training. They tell me, finally, the only reason I bought the training, they said it's half the wins. Oh, so you, in order to get the wins of the auditing and really going clear, you have to be trained. I said, well, then give me the training package. So I bought a class 5 training package because they said you had to be trained as trained as you're clear. And I said, what's a clear guy? So a class 5. Now, you should know that a lot of people fall for this sales thing. And there is probably, I would guess, my guess is conservatively is there is probably $500 million, is my guess off the top of my head, of unused training that has been bought. People buy it, but they can't confront it. They can't face it without flinching. Okay? Me, I'm a class 5 auditor. I fucking did it. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I actually got a lot of wins out of that shit. So that was part of another reason why people liked me, because I was actually doing it. I didn't mind going on. I would quit. I'd say, I don't want to go on that audition. I'm going on course. You know, I was here to go clear. I figured I can do this in about 5-6 months. What the fuck, you know? Let's go. And I basically did that. You know, I'd stop to do a little bit of stuff to pay the rent, but basically I was in the org from 8 in the morning. I had my own auditor, and she just audited me all day. I got all the other PCs off her fucking line, and I just went clear. Well, I actually went through my grades. It turned out I was a past life clear. That's why I was so able. And
well, explain what that concept is, the past life clear.
well, what is that? Oh, dear God. Past life clear. Well, in other words, you know, I was born in 1960. Scientology was developed in 1952, but the LRH was doing Dianetics. I'm having a moment. See, this is part of the moments of coming out of Scientology, for me at least. I think it might be something common to a lot of people, but there are moments where you just feel a loss. And it's not a loss of, I miss Scientology by any stretch. It's a loss. It's a regret of having invested so much in something that is empty. And so there are these moments, I just had one, where you just go, whew. So at any rate, a past life clear would be somebody, because a clear is even though LRH says absolutes are unobtainable, that's a state that he called a homo novus. You're not even a human being. You're not even a homo sapiens anymore. Homo sap, as he calls it. You're a homo novus, which would be new man in Latin. And so it's a new state on the evolutionary track. So I'm more evolved than regular mortal humans. I was declared to have been somebody who had gone clear in a past life, which would have been my last life.
Even though supposedly the tech wasn't there for somebody to go clear.
Well, you can go clear. Well, no, Dianetics was written in 1950. And he was talking about the state of clear in Dianetics. It was not until they wanted that I personally believe that, it's just that there's always something being re-released because it never was quite correctly done or understood. And all the people who went clear last lifetime, even though they may have been on OT8s, were pulled back in because in New Era Dianetics, which was a later way of going clear, there was a different criteria. There were different criteria for what was a clear and getting rid of an engram, which is a whole thing. And so you had to go in and get all the postulates off.
At your point, what were you supposed to achieve as a clear?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, this is a funny thing for me, and this is I mean, if you read Dianetics, I mean, the state of clear is somebody who is never likely to get sick. He has a perfect memory. It's even intimated, and this was in 1950 when there was no, is that he could be immortal. He may never die. It's pretty funny. And so that's what the state of clear is. They define it as no longer has his own reactive mind, which is a rigged game to get somebody to take OT levels, which is their real moneymaker. But the what? Oh, so I don't know. So clear. So, but like I said, there's a guy on the internet apparently who's saying, I'll give you $1 million if you can demonstrate OT. I'll give $1 million to anybody who can demonstrate clear. There's no fucking clear. There's no clear. There's no clear. I mean, just looking in Dianetics, there's no clear. Clear is basically, I mean, what are you kidding me? Clear. So I was like, if I get this, that's what I was going for. It's too good to be true. And that's basically it. And that goes back to that feeling of loss, is because, you know what it is? I'm sorry to say. See, and I'm actually realizing something for myself right now, because this is cathartic in a way for me, but it's the same feeling. That loss is the feeling that I got. Like, I'm no stupid guy. I grew up in New York City, and I mean, I never got mugged. I mean, I know, and I've been through some serious bad neighborhoods. But I remember one time I was living on my own down in the village, and I saw this guy running across the street, and he had like a VCR. This is back when VCRs were a new thing, like a plasma TV or something. And he's like, he'd obviously stolen the thing, and he's like, hey, you can have this for $50, right? And I bought it, took it home, and it was full of bricks and shit, and I was I got conned. And that's the feeling of loss. Because it actually, going back, you're asking me about clear, it's a con. It's a con. And like any, and it's an interesting, I mean, this is way segueing, but this is something I don't know if it'll be, it's interesting, is that, there's a book that LRH wrote called The History of Man. And he talks about a lot of these traps that can catch a thetan, which is something that has no matter any space, time, or location, but it can catch a thetan. But he's got interest and curiosity, right? And so there's these things called theta traps, and so and the best theta traps are ones that the thetan runs on autopilot. Like if I'm trying to enslave somebody, the last thing I want to do is have to worry about fucking, keeping the key and the lock and the best traps, you get a guy to just keep himself in jail, right? And that's what Scientology does. You just keep yourself in jail, and that that's it. It's a perfect theta trap, because you believe it, and you are investing your time and your money, and so it's you can't be a fool. That's too much to confront,
when you were a kid, you were saying you were able to look at your dad or your uncle and you could really perceive them and understand them and know them.
Yeah.
When you looked around at the people in the org and you trusted them, do you think there was a misperception there, or were you?
Well, I tell you, I got to be honest, is that the more I got in, the stupider I got. That's as I get out, that's my perception. The less, I mean, Christ, you don't even ask questions. I mean, that's what I was trying to remember the other day, that I was going to say that I had forgotten. Like this thing, I got into, they made me as commissioner of CCHR. I'm talking to Tory. And the
CCHR is?
Because Citizens Commission on Human Rights is a way to try and destroy psychiatry and psychology. And I was like, fine, I don't give a shit. And so, you know, they put my name on their stationery. Fine, they got me out of an ethics cycle or something. So I say, okay. And, but I would go, and I always had questions, you know, because I would, you know, even L. Ron Hubbard, you know, he would always call the psychs, and he would rail about them and how terrible they are, and they're the sole course of destruction. But he would never, I kept saying, you know, his own technology says that's a generalization, the psychs. Who? Psychs on the whole track. That means all psychiatrists for billions of years in the history of theta. You know, it's like, it's so general, and that would be that's a characteristic of a suppressive person, is one who speaks in generalities. And another one is somebody, a person who has overts, which are sins or crimes committed, is somebody who's, you know, antagonistic or angry. And he seemed very antagonistic and angry about psychs. So I was thinking he must have, you know, overts on him, and he's speaking about them in generalities. But the thing about, I was thinking about that I went over to CCHR and got tours ad infinitum by the directors, this woman, Jan Eastgate, and I would ask questions and she'd write me up in ethics chits and shit, and I said, fine, yeah, I got the question, I don't fucking know. But I would say, if you want me to represent Scientology's viewpoint, and you go to their museum, it's all the psychs are bad, the psychs are bad, this is a bad thing, and Hitler, and they're responsible for child pornography and rape, and it's all the psychs. And I say, okay, that's their viewpoint. I say, but if I'm going to get into a discussion, you know, if you want to prepare me to be a spokesman for this shit, I got to know the other side. So, and I kept asking, can you give me the other side? And they won't give it to you. And every time I would push it, I'd be like, honey, there's no way to get into the argument. You know, they're not, if it's all this is true, there wouldn't be anything. I got to know their viewpoint. How am I going to win the argument? You know what I mean? And they wouldn't give me the viewpoint. And it was like, and then they started to write me up because I'm doubting. I'm not saying I'm doubting or nothing. I'm just waiting for the data, which is this whole big thing about learning how to think correctly is this other course called the Data Series. And basically you have to get all the data. They won't give you any fucking data on certain things. And especially about this. There's nothing written in all the tomes of Scientology about psychiatry. Nothing other than the psychs are responsible for all your sexual problems because they implanted you as a thetan 10 years ago. And I realized that on my research of OT10. Oh, well, then it must be true because LRH says it's so. I mean, it's really, you see how at a certain point you get conned. And I was saying, where's the fucking data? I'd say to everybody. And they'd show you, and nobody's allowed to tell you anything. So they pull out a reference. They always pull out this fucking reference called pain and sex. And there's like, he's talking about pain and sex are these things that are really just dogging people and bothering them. And it's a really difficult thing that we're trying to help you with in Scientology. And basically, there's maybe 2 sentences in there where LRH says, through my research on the whole track of OT something or other, I've just discovered that this is all because of psychs. And that's the reference they tell you to prove that the fucking Hitler and rape is a thing. And I'm like, honey, that doesn't quite handle it, you know, but they don't get it.
Now, I look at this as an outsider, and to me, and I don't have a vast knowledge of this, but it seems like the psychiatric field sprung forth in the 1800s, or not, you know, thousands of years ago or millions of years ago. How are there psychs on the whole track?
Because
if there weren't psychs?
No, well, because now the latest, these are the evil people. These are the evil beings, actually. These are the evil beings. And they've been around, like you hear about XENU and all that shit. XENU was a psych. You got it?
So he just wasn't a practicing psychiatrist.
No, he was practicing Xenuism. You got it? Gotcha. Now they're called psychs. So you better beware.
I remember one time I visited.
Right? Fuck me.
One time I visited the Celebrity Center and it just walked in late at night and looked around and said, well, what goes on in here?
Right.
And they woke up the projectionist to show me the orientation.
Oh, nice.
I had my own private screening that night. And they had some poor Sea Org kid, maybe 15, 16 years old, babysitting me in the theater.
Right. Well, you're not allowed to watch the movie alone.
Right. Well, I was.
You're not allowed to do what? Because you get an MU. Like he was watching to make sure you didn't have any lack of mask kind of shit.
And he was making small talk before that, and he was saying, well, you remember the Salem witch trials? Yeah. It was the psychs behind that. Well, I don't think there were psychiatrists back then. And he went, oh, no, not the psychs. I mean the pharmaceutical companies.
Oh, dear goodness.
No, not quite.
See, these are the kids. You just gotta, you dash off a get well soon card, and that's about it. Because it's sad, This is the interesting thing. And it goes back to, to answer further the question of, what did you perceive? What I perceived, and I kind of avoided the question by saying I got stupider. But let me tell you something. These are good people. These are some of the best people you can meet. These are people who really want to help. They're willing to give up their entire life and their own personal ambition to help others. That's a pretty rare, and generally you would say, it's a pretty decent person. That's the thing. And I would say I'm not a bad person. If I saw me walking around there, I'd say, okay, he's okay.
But when you say you got stupider, how do you think that happened? Well,
in my opinion, again, and I'm only out of Scientology about a year or so, less than a year, officially. But in my opinion, what I've gathered as I wake up, it's a funny thing in Scientology. You feel as though you're waking up to the truth, the reality, or what really is. But what you're doing is waking up to the reality of Scientology, which is that, not the reality, which is the agreed upon universe of what is. And basically, in my opinion, the best thing you can be is yourself. And that's who you are. And that, there's degrees to which you can actually become yourself. And that's probably what the whole spiritual interest is. For me, I don't really know. But what Scientology, the trick of it is, it makes you feel as though you're sold that you're actually becoming yourself. But what you're actually becoming is, my name's Jason Beghe. I was becoming Jason Beghe, the Scientologist, rather than just, not even Jason Beghe, but me. And the trick is, and you say, how do you fall for this shit? Go back to my first fucking win. Because it's me. It's me. And so there is you. But then it's you are through, I can't explain it, pressure of the group, or this is the thing I'm trying to get. Because I've never been like a guy, well, I got to get a pair of those shoes because everybody's wearing them. It's not been, I've been always, I got to find my own if everybody's wearing those things. But it's like, and maybe that's how I got out to some degree, is that I always try, I'm not saying I had never, bought a BMW or whatever the fuck people want to do, but it's like, to me, it gives you a way of thinking that, at least for me and from what I observe of others, is not native to that person. I think, as I said before, in my opinion, I suspect, I'm no Dalai Lama, but I think that the best thing you can be is yourself. And that if you can do that truthfully, it'll be beautiful and successful and interesting. I don't know about success, like how you define it, but it'll be a worthwhile time spent. And what happens is you are sold, and again, the trap is good because you sell it to yourself. Because if you're not on course, you're wanting to be on course, or you should be on course. You've got your own self in jail. It's an autopilot gig. It's quite good. I think there's some hypnotism in there or something. I don't quite know, but it's quite surprising. And so at the end of the thing, you end up being, like here's an example. You start the ethics technology. So you start thinking, okay, and you start thinking in terms of the conditions of existence that he laid out, and that these are behaviors. And so now you're not just going, you know what the fuck, I think I need to take a walk, and I think I gotta become, I'm gonna be an insurance salesman, and that's my truth. It's, you have to go through these steps and do this. It's like retarded. It's not true. It's not true. And I did ethics cycles and conditions, and nothing changed. I've seen people who've done them and they've changed, so I don't know, whatever. But there's a placebo effect. I don't quite know. Tori, how many times did you do the PTSSP course?
It's like on and on and on.
You have to, every time you go PTS, which is the human condition, you got to do the course over and do this shit. Let me tell you something. That's another racket. PTS.
I'm not sure if we got PTS description on
PTS
camera.
is potential trouble source. So all injury, accident, and illness. Listen to those three words. All injury, accident, illness. Ow, is all because of PTS. Everything negative that happens is because of PTS, which means you are a P potential T trouble S source. Wow, that sounds weird, a potential trouble source. So in other words, not only did you just slip and split your lip, but you better get away from this guy, because if you're near him, you're gonna split your lip too, and your business is gonna fail. He's a potential trouble source. So you gotta take him out. It's like he's got, it's like you don't come to school with the flu. This is like the spiritual flu. So it's like heavy shit. And now there's only one reason that you are a potential trouble source. One reason is that you're connected to an SP, which is a suppressive person. Now this is the 2.5% of awful people like Tori who are fucking it up for the rest of us, good people. Oh, it's a funny thing. It's funny. As I zip around, my best friend, this is my best friend. I mean, this is a guy that I was, in 9th grade, I met this guy. And I saw this guy, came to my school in 9th grade, and I saw this guy, and I was a gregarious kind of kid, and he was new. And I saw him, and I said, you know something? You and I are going to be friends. I think that's the first thing I ever said to him. And I was right. He's a big famous actor now. And an amazing guy, David Duchovny. And David, my best friend, I mean, I'm talking about a friend, our relationship was adversely affected by my being in Scientology. He was very cool, but he wasn't into it. He was happy for me. He never gave me any fucking thing about it, But, and I think his wife, you know, I perceived that, you know, she was a little bit more like that. At any rate, and they were right. But, you know, and then everybody in Scientology, not everybody, that's a generalization. I'll give you people. Marty Rathbun, Susan Watson, Dave Pettit, a couple of RTC terminals people said, well, he's a 1-1 SP. Okay? In other words, trying to destroy my relationship with him, and it affected our relationship. 1-1 is a definition is covertly hostile. Hey man, I'm your friend. I really am. You fuck. You know, that's covertly hospital. Covertly hospital. And so one of the first things I did, I mean, you know, we'd stay in communication, but the further I got in, like that, and that's a loss, you know, let alone my family. You know, no, but my family, you know, shit, they don't fuck with me or anything, you know, but I've never been closer now that I'm out, you know, because they weren't into it. Everybody was totally respectful of me. Nobody ever said, you know, my mother said one thing once, you know, I just don't think it, you know, allows for the grace of God or something. That was the all, something, you know, because she's a big Christian thing. Of course, I whipped out the whiz book and I gave her the right answer and handled her, you know. But the thing with Dave, this is just the other thing when I was thinking about I was laughing is as I got out, when I got out, one of the first people I went to go see was David. And, you know, his whole family was out of town, and I was just moving here, and now we live in the same city. And so I went over to his house, and, you know, we're just walking around. And we talked about it a little bit, just a little bit. You know, because I just said, oh, by the way. And I said, oh, okay. So we started to talk a little bit about, like, you know, OT levels and stuff like that, you know. And, you know, he doesn't watch South Park or whatever the fuck, but, you know, he doesn't know this whole... So, you know, what is that? You know, what is the, you know, what were you into? Why, what is the OT? Or, you know, or so, I don't know what if he asked the question, but somehow I went and I explained to him. And here I am, you know, just kind of basically, it just walked out the door. And it did so much for me, but I started to explain to him the story of XENU and the loyal officers. And I tell you, fuck me. I mean, I couldn't get a third of the way through the story, and we had our faces on the floor. We were laughing so hard. I mean, you couldn't even talk. It was just, because it's retarded. It's insane. It's
what was
funny.
your reaction, though, when you saw the packet with the info? How did you react?
Well, that's the other thing I got to say. I mean, like I had told you earlier, I had been on a spiritual journey long before Scientology. This data is just, it's as different as the word Thetan is different from the word spirit. It's about that different. I mean, the Bible talks about the devil and demons. It's nomenclature. The, you know, entities is what they talk about in these New Age religions. So all that stuff about Thetans, I mean, it was a little because I was in Scientology heavily, so I was a little bit like this. But I thought, okay, and I remember that was my thought. I said, okay, well, that's obviously, it wasn't that big of a surprise to me. And I just thought, it's like one of those moments, now that I look back and really look at it, there was a moment where I could have woken up there. But you choose not to. And that's part of the reason why Scientology is expensive. You know. Well, if you're paying a lot of money for it, it makes it more valuable. And you give it more. It's like I was just listening to the fucking radio today. There's this guy. He was working at MTV. And they were in New York. This is just on NPR today. This guy, and he was on this art channel on NPR. And he was working at MTV, and they were talking about packaging and marketing. and how important it is. And the guy, and he was talking and saying it was important, and that it was, this other guy said, it's not that important. He says, bullshit. And they had a little bit of an argument, and he said, well, let me see, let me show you something. And he went, and he was in New York, and he went and he grabbed little garbage, and he put them in little plastic boxes, and he put a little stamp on them and dated them and signed the, you know, and numbered them, and he's selling them for $50 each as art. Started as $10 as just, and it was like a little gift, but now that they're up there $50 and $100 each, the people are actually calling them art. So it's an interesting thing. So again, it's your own, you're driving the car. It's just that you don't realize that the car, as a Scientologist, because you're in the trap, it's got a pre-rigged route. It's called the bridge. And so you feel like this is this easy life. I just got to sit here and the car basically drives itself. All I got to do is show up at the church and I'll be happy. And there you are. And you're on the bridge to total freedom. To total freedom. Yeah, they free you from yourself.
That's one of the brutally ironic things about Scientology, when they have a slogan called "Think for Yourself."
Yeah.
And you find yourself thinking exactly what Scientology wants you to think, it seems.
No, but you're doing it yourself. That's why it's pretty good. I mean, it's really insidious. It's quite, it's so bold and bald-faced that, you know, you just would never suspect it. You know? It's another, reminds me, you remember those, I used to smoke cigarettes. And so I was smoking cigarettes and I wanted to quit and I couldn't quit, and I'm smoking. And then these new cigarettes came out from American Spirits. And I say, and they're supposed to be all natural, right? And the fucking thing on it, it said addictive free. And I said, bullshit. So I start smoking, and I'm down to like 2 cigarettes a day. And I'm like fucking disseminating the shit out of these things. They're the best cigarettes in the world. And I'm telling everybody, these are addictive free. I'm hardly smoking at all. I say, look, it's addictive free. It says, that's not, it says additive free. I went right back to a pack a day. So it's the same kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's you know, you're playing the game by yourself. It's a mental.
Well, I don't think it's fair to say by yourself, because it seems like this entire structure of Scientology has been built to funnel you onto the bridge and keep you on the bridge.
Yes, yes, and those people that I suspect, again, I'm not an expert, and this is some of the things. This is one of the things that I can't fully confront yet. I can say that, in my opinion, that the lion's share, at least. Well over 99% of your Sea Org people are the truest of the true believers, okay? So they are really there they're trying to help you, and they'll not take no for an answer. It's like, you know, your son wants to touch the stove, and, you know, you're willing to physically stop him, even though he's sure that he wants to see that beautiful blue thing that's dancing there and touch it. Right? And maybe even put his hair in it or something. You know what I mean? He didn't know what fire is. They are willing to give their lives practically to keep you on the bridge, because this is for your own good. So, but they are doing it. That's just one individual, and that individual is doing his job. There's not a lot of them that need to be told to get up in the morning. They're on autopilot too. But the whole group is, it becomes, you know, this living, breathing thing. And the thing that I haven't quite confronted is, I can't quite see what the fuck anybody gets out of it. Like, you know, is COB, does he want $300 million? Is that what it is? Does he want $1 billion?
And COB is David Miscavige.
I mean, is that it? Is it just this power hard-on? Is, you know, or is it just insanity? You know, I mean, I wonder, is LRH, was he just crazy? You know, there are people, maybe he was an SP, you know, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, the jury's out for me. I haven't, like I said, I can't confirm. I don't see what the fucking, like, if I wanted money, I know for me, if I wanted $1 billion or something like that, I couldn't do that. That wouldn't be a way for me to, you see what I'm saying? I couldn't do it. I'd probably kill myself. You know what I mean? I just couldn't live with myself like that. I certainly couldn't look my son in the eye. You know what I mean? But that's me. And maybe that's me, PTS. Maybe I'm fucked up. Maybe that's my conscience, whatever the fuck that is. But do you see what I'm saying? I don't know. I haven't quite had that confront of truth or evil, depending on what you want. But I don't know what the fuck anybody wants out of it.
Well, who's
like all this money is a big thing. Where does it go?
We see recently there was a video released of Tom Cruise's birthday aboard the Free Winds, and I understand that there was 6 figures spent on the birthday party for Tom, and that's parishioners' money going to keep Tom Cruise happy.
Well, they figure that's worth it. You know, according to him, he brings in just him being Tom Cruise. Per their viewpoint, he probably brings in $100,000 a day for this church in terms of interest and positive public relations, and so 6 figures ain't dick.
Right.
It's certainly, you could throw a party for him every day and it wouldn't really put a dent in their bank account. So I don't know what a party, people like to get mad at COs who take these big things, and Tom Cruise is party, and there was the fucking Free Winds is, let me tell you, is a flea bag. I mean, it's not a fucking nice boat, I mean, I've been on that thing. I got seasick every time. So.
But speaking of Tom Cruise, you were talking earlier about your identity being stripped and being replaced with that of Scientologist, and certainly you can see that in Tom Cruise and in the recent videotape that was released.
I mean, yeah, but I would suspect that that's what's happened, and he was off for a while, and he's in gung-ho. I'm sure he went through a big ethics cycle and woke up, because he probably had some trouble with his wife and he found his ruin. I think I would just, maybe he has trouble with girls or something like that. That might be his whatever. I don't know. Anyway, he's.
But at any rate, he seems like the ideal of what a Scientologist should be. I mean, dedicated.
Well, I was in there. COB called me the poster boy for Scientology. I was as gung-ho as you could get.
How did it turn around for you? Why did you start to doubt?
Well, it not only didn't work anymore, the more auditing I did, which I was more and more encouraged to do, the worse I got. I was starting to go fucking crazy. And it was fucking me up.
How far up the bridge did you go?
I'm a class 5, OT5. I've done all my L's. Done a lot of, what do you call those fucking things? All those other courses, data series things, and blah, blah, blah. One of the things, what's interesting to me? There was a big thing about maybe 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, that everybody wanted you to listen to your congresses, which is a Congress was this, meeting that LRH had starting in early 60s, and he would get a group of people together and he would give a series of lectures on X. And usually it all really had to do with clearing, because all the congresses were having to do with clearing. And well, let me give you, remember that I'm talking about the congresses. I'm going to give you the unabridged version. Is that okay?
Sure.
You sure?
Yeah, time.
Okay. When I was in that TR's course, my very first week in Scientology. Now again, I'm an actor, so communication is something I kind of do for a living. And that's a whole course about communication. So I felt like I'm pretty good at this naturally. And one of the exercises is they use Alice in Wonderland, which is full of these wild kind of sentences, and you take it and you read it to yourself and then you deliver it as your own. That's a TR1. TR2 is properly acknowledge somebody. So they say off with your head and you say thank you to make sure they know it and end it, and there's all these other things. Now, here I was doing this TR, it happened to be TR2, and somebody said off with your head, and I said, my God, and they flunked me. And I said, why? And they said, because you're showing, it's supposed to be just thank you good, whatever. I said, no, read the fucking thing. It says appropriate acknowledgement. If somebody says off with your head, why do you think he chose Alice in Wonderland? And they bring the head technical person in the fucking place, and they're all invalidating the shit out of me, and I'm sticking to my guns. I finally am crying. I said, you guys are fucking wrong. Who the fuck talks like that? Thank you. I got it. Okay. Good. Wow. That would be way too much. Wow. Okay? I totally duplicate that. This is the way you're supposed to talk. I'm really talking to you. But do you see how I'm not? So it's there. this is perfect in terms of their idea. All right, I got it. Okay, so that was good TRs, wasn't excellent. Excellent TRs is more like this. You know, you're really conversational, but I'm not moving, and I'm really looking at you, and I'm ready for everything. And I don't blink, and I'm not really, your eyes stink. Okay? So it's that kind of fucking deal. Some gum wore Sue up. Anyway, that's just a private joke. You know that one, right? Anyway, Mu Gu Gai Pan. These are words that just, you can talk gibberish in Scientology to help you learn your TRs. And one of the things written down is some gum wore Sue up. That's not a sentence. That's like written like Chinese, S-U-M. Anyway, so at any rate, so I'm in there and I'm fucking crying and shit and like blah, blah, blah. So finally I stop and I toe the line and I'm like, thank you, okay, good, you know? And then about 4 years later, in some event, COB, David Miscavige says, hey, there's been this big breakthrough in this golden age of tech. Fucking piece of shit. One of the things is, here's the real thing. People have been doing the improper acknowledgement. You're supposed to have, it says appropriate acknowledgement. And they have LRH on tape saying, you know, somebody said off with your head and he goes, my God, that's the right way to do it. So here I was, this guy, first day of school, and I had it right. Now, cut 2. You're asking me how I got out. So I'm in the fucking thing, and they keep telling me I got to do this action, and I got to do this, and you got to do this sec checking, and all this shit. And I'm like, you fucking people, I wouldn't show up here if I wasn't ready. And they would be sec checking, which is basically asking me for my crimes and charging me I probably paid 50 grand, excuse me, in sec checks to get this shit together, because everything was fucked up, so it must be that I'm fucked up. And I kept saying, these sec checks are killing me. And this is the standard tech now, this is the golden age of tech. And I finally just said, you know something, motherfuckers? I don't care, you could get LRH to fly down here back from fucking Target 2 and tell me that I am fucking doing it wrong. I am not going in session and doing this shit. You guys are fucking killing me. I am here to tell you, you're fucking me up. So I'm out of here until you fucking wake up, okay? And then they come back to my house and they're offering me free auditing. I say, show me where free auditing is standard. You're not giving me standard tech, now you want to fix it by more unstandard shit? Get the fuck out of here. You ask Griffey Blythe and the whole rest of those motherfuckers at AO if this is a lie. It's the fucking truth. And I'm out. And then they call, and I just went on course, because I couldn't take any more of this fucking auditing. It was killing me. So then they come out with this thing, and then, Jason, you have to see this. I wouldn't even go to events, you know? Because me, I'm at events, everybody's like, hey, how you doing? And I go, good. I just couldn't fucking lie anymore. I'm ready to fucking die, you know? And I told him, I'm not going. I can't participate. Because my role was like Jason Beghe. I couldn't be like, yeah, well, I'll tell you the truth, I'm fucked up. I hate OT5, and everything's going fucking shitty, and it's fucking not working, and it's costing me a shitload of money, and I'm more unhappy than I've ever been in my entire fucking life.
What would happen if you spoke truthfully?
Well, I would tell that truth. I would talk to RTC and all these things, but it's bad PR. It's none of anybody else's business. You're not supposed to talk about your case. So this is going on, honey, this is going on for, I was in Scientology maybe 10, 11 years. The last 8 years. Like that, okay? And I'm paying fucking money. Maybe I paid $1 million fucking dollars. I don't know. I don't even keep track. I just said, what the, okay, here, another fucking thing. This is gonna work, you think so? Yeah, we finally got it. So anyway, on this fucking thing, I'm out of thing and I'm doing course and I'm just off auditing lines, you know? And then, you gotta see this thing, Jason, he's gonna fucking key you out. And I go in and they show me this fucking, and I'm looking at all these people who are on OT7, and they're going nuts with the sec checks too. And I'm like, this is fucking crazy. These people, like, you know, they're supposed to be home auditing and then they have to go to flag every 6 months and they're there for like 6 fucking weeks. How are you supposed to, what are you, crazy? And they're coming home like, I had a really good 6 months check. I mean, these fucking, I said, I mean, it's just as clear as day. I tell you, this is not fucking standard. Scientology's not supposed to make you worse. I was experiencing it and watching it. So now they come out, and this is 2-3 years. And this little mistake probably made the church about $500 million. And then about $500 million later, COB gives a fucking briefing on the free winds, and this is what they show me. It's arbitrary, it's canceled. It's an arbitrary, is what they say. So in other words, all this SEP checking was an arbitrary. And through his research and looking into things and rechecking all the LRH's notes, they realized they made a mistake. And so now I don't have to do the SEC check. Aren't you happy, Jason? And all these people, like on 7, like a bunch of fucking idiots, were like, arbitraries are canceled. I can just go on and it's going to save me about 50 grand a year and all this shit. And it's like, wow. And me, I'm like, you think that's supposed to make me fucking happy? I feel like you should have a fucking apology. I said, if I were COB and I made that mistake, I wouldn't go, arbitrary is canceled. I say, I made a fucking mistake. I am sorry. And I'd make up the fucking damage. I'd pay. My fucking mistake made me $500 fucking million, and you don't fucking even say you're sorry? You say, guess what? And this is what the fucking thing does. It just plays the same game over and over again. And this, when I'm going now to the Congresses, toward the end of this 8 years, they say, and I'm like off auditing. You know, I finished, OT5 finally, and I just said, I don't want any more of this shit. Nobody even said take OT7. Because apparently I'm in the middle of 4 different fucking actions, and nobody knows what to do. You know? So I'm fucking in the middle of L10, you know, I mean, I could tell you about L10 is a story in itself. L10 is a story. So just know that they use my fucking wins on the L's. And the L's are what fucked me up in Scientology. Okay? Now, I go and I say, fuck it, okay, I'll buy these Congresses, it's only a couple of $1,000, and I got something to do, and I'll get in shape, I'll listen to a Congress and go for a walk. So I was one of the first people to finish the Congresses. Because I just sat, I get up and I fucking thing, and I get up early. I get up at like 5, and I just get up and I take the dog, and I'd go and I'd listen to 3 tapes and walk for an hour or 2 and do the thing. And so I got through the Congresses. And the Congresses are part of what got me out of Scientology. Because if you listen to those fucking Congresses, it goes like this. Hi, everybody, I'm LRH. I'm very happy you're here. Listen, I've got great fucking news. We've got clear handled. And he'll do this thing, and it's this new technology, and here's the realization, and this is foolproof, and this is it. And that's it, and now welcome to 1964. Okay, apparently, you know, because the fucking thing didn't work, and Dianetics didn't work, even though nobody ever said it didn't, but they always trying to perfect clear. Then the next Congress, and there were what, 20, 30 of these fucking Congresses? Maybe about, I don't know, 200 hours or some shit? Every fucking Congress is, I got it now we've got clear handled. We finally got clear. And this is going on over, I'm listening from 1964 to like 1970, and they still haven't fucking handled clear, but they're selling you clear. And I said, what the fuck? That's exactly what they're doing to me now. I said, what the fuck? And I went back to it, and I'm talking to Dave Pettit, who's the head of CC, who now is handling my case personally. Personally. You know? He's at my house. He's at my fucking thing. We're taking walks. I almost killed him once. I fucking took him by the tie, and I was grounding him. But I fucking, Jason, please don't me. Oh, God. I actually secretly recorded it. It's funny. I have it on audio tape. But oh, fucking thing. Because he didn't want me to leave. Please don't leave. Please don't leave. I said, motherfucker, get out of the way or I will fucking kill you. And he wouldn't get out of the way, so I took him by the tie and put him down on the floor, and then I walked out. But, because it'll get you pissed. But that's how mad I was. I mean, I was fucked up. It's one thing to feel unhappy from, I mean, I walked into Scientology. Remember, I was on the top of the thing. It must have been false, though. I mean, I was fucking happy. And I'm fucking unhappy. And they're paying me, they're making me pay to get fucked up. And they're telling me what's wrong with me. And that's another fucking thing. They won't tell you what the next thing is. And I'm like, believe me, it's good. So you got to fucking buy the thing for 50 G's a pop or whatever. And it's wrong. Oops, made a mistake. We're going to do this now. I mean, are you fucking crazy? Do you see how stupid I was? I mean, it's like, oh my God. And that's the game. And I'm telling you, that's the game. So at any rate, the Congresses helped me out because I said, what the fuck? Because I never met LRH and I figured he was good. I figured Scientology works. It's just these fucking mortals can't fucking give me Scientology. If Scientology works 100% of the time, this ain't fucking working, so I'm not getting Scientology. And that's what I said to him. I said, that's why I said you guys should give me the fucking money. It's one thing to make a fucking mistake, but, you know, let's say the last fucking 600 grand was a fucking mistake. I mean, I feel like I got a case because if Scientology works and they agree this didn't work, I bought Scientology, then you should give me my fucking money back. And there's nothing to indicate that they have any fucking hope for my case now. So I just said, you know, babies, let's just, and it took me, I was trying to be nice. I mean, 6-8 months, I was saying, why don't we just let me go? Just let me go. Just let me go. You know, I think it's better. You don't want to get into a whole fucking thing with me. And they would. And they had to keep changing terminals. Because I'm talking about big fucking terminals. Because I would put doubt in their universe. Because you can't argue with my story. When you saw what happened to fucking me, and you're a trained auditor, and you look in my fucking folder, they fucked me up. I'm talking about insane. I'm like, I've never been like that in my life. I walked out, I was like, hey, hi. I was never shy. I was never introverted or anything. I'm sitting there like, I'm fucked up now. You know what I mean? And so, they fucked me the fuck up. Well, the way out's the way through. There's no reason to get in that room. Maybe that was the hidden deep shit. I'm looking at my kid. He's 5 years old. He's a happy fucking guy. He's not fucked up yet. He might get fucked up later.
Are you sure you were fucked up? Maybe you were just PTS to an SP.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And that's the other thing. I had this big fucking car accident. In the middle of OT5, I nearly died. I was in a coma for 3.5 weeks. I was fucking like, everybody thought I was going to die. So, of course, we got to find my PTS terminal. That happened 8.5 years ago, okay? And I got out of Scientology a year. In the last 7.5 years in Scientology, still no fucking PTS item until I finally said, it's you guys. And they couldn't deny it. I said, look at the data. Are you sure it's not that person? He's gay. That's what somebody told me. That's how naive some of these people. That's a what do you call it? An RTC terminal, which is like the gold standard of technical perfection. And that they think that's a homosexual. So they believe that homosexuals are all 1.1.
They still believe that.
There's some that do. I never believed that. I interpreted it differently. But it was something where I had to do some mental gymnastics in order to make work.
Well, that's what Hubbard wrote, though, that they were 1.1.
Well, it's debatable. Well, I know that he said something like he said, you're homosexuals, when he's saying the 1.1. So I don't know if it's all homosexuals or what.
And yet the church says that they've changed
homosexuality. The church said they changed that?
The church has said that they no longer, think negatively about homosexuals.
Well, I've never heard the word faggot more than when I hang around people at Gold, till the point where I said, I don't like it. My brother's gay, and he sure ain't 1.1. I got great friends of mine that are gay. You're telling me Leonardo da Vinci is 1.1? I don't think so. If he's covertly hostile, he's got so much that he did that was good that, as much hostility as he may have exuded, I think he made up for it. You see?
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I never bought it. And again, in my universe when I was in it, I I just thought, you know, because you part of the thing when you're in it, you know, LRH is this super duper guy, so you make him into your own super duper guy, I suppose, probably.
But you're looking at the current management, David Miscavige, COB, and you're thinking, well, is he in it for the money? What's your view of L. Ron Hubbard now?
Well, you know, I mean, again, I don't have all the data. I read some of the books that are out that are critical, Barefaced Messiah and Madman or Magician or whatever it was.
Madman or Messiah.
Right, that one, mate, and
Piece of Blue Sky.
Piece of Blue Sky, and you know, and then there's stories. Yeah, I think that, you know. So I don't know if all that's true, but it's consistent. One of the ways for me that I can detect whether something is true or false is for inconsistencies. You know, you say the guy, you know, wore blue shoes, and here's a picture of him in red shoes. So I never saw anything inconsistent. But you know, I didn't see it with my own eyes. But there's a, you know, the person seemed reliable. But again, here I am, I'm just pulling out of this thing, and I thought LRH was reliable. And I don't. I don't think so now. I mean, I look, you know, and you know, the whole death and the death certificate and all this stuff, it's hard to argue with. You know, it seemed like he was, you know, and his kids, you know, like my wife is, my wife is an interesting person to talk to as well, because she's class 5 OT5, or class 4 OT5, and, but she's like one of those people, she could probably, you know, do heroin for a year and then just say, oh, you know what, it's making me too skinny, and just put it down, you know what I mean? She's not a person, you know, and she was, you know, everybody loved her, you know, a lot of, you know, she was Jason Beghe's wife to some degree over there, but she's a remarkable person in her own right, and one of the ways is that she just doesn't, she's one of those people you just can't brainwash. So when she got out, it was kind of like, you know, that's it. She just, you know, she didn't even talk. I mean, it was like, I said, you know, honey, I'm thinking about doing this. I think she was like, you know, okay, fine, whatever. Flip the burger. Yeah, you know, because I think they're, you know, because she had said, she had always pointed out things that were inconsistent also. And, well, all these fucking OTs that aren't OT. Like, that's a fucking OT?
And what's an OT supposed to be?
Somebody who's at least able. Somebody who can, like, walk and chew gum. I mean, there's people that are OT that are some of the most incompetent, stupid people. I mean, when I say, that sounds, my definition of stupid is not, you know, necessary. It's not, it doesn't have anything to do with data or education. It has to do with being able to say, I mean, I'm talking about people put their hand on the stove and go, hey, 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 my hand's hot. My hand is hot. You know, I'm talking about that kind of stupid. I mean, and like, unreal. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? So that, you know, there's some real dopes that have, you know, but they have money and they're successful and they feel good about themselves because they're on 7. Well, I'm on 7 now. It's fucking great. I gotta tell you, you gotta get on 7. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. And it gives them a thing. And you look at them and it's, and you know, and Scientologists know, and I've talked to like Big Tur. I said, what the fuck? We've talked, what is that? You know, what is that? You know, because these people, you know, I might have had an issue with them and they'll write me up and they'll bring me to ethics. I got to handle this thing. And it'll be the thing they wrote up. I'd say, what do you want me to say? It's true, I guess. And they go, well, you know, I'm not going to say the name. You know, well, you know who he is. And I go, yeah, okay. We just had to bring it in because it's written up. You want to, you know, write anything? I don't give a fuck. Put it in the folder. You know. So I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So that was some of the stuff that she would just like, you know, really go nutty on. And even me, here I was. I told you, the further I went up the fucking bridge, the more Casey I became. You know, I met this girl and I was, you know, and she could see the more I do this shit, you know, whatever. It wasn't handling dick.
So once you left, how did you leave?
They wouldn't let me leave. They just kept saying no, 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 no. And so I said, okay, give me my money back. And that what I had was, you know, money on account. And per their policy, if you asked for your money, that was it.
And they did give it back?
They gave my wife's money back. They offered to give me my money back. And I'm still in a, they want me to sign a piece of paper that says that I have no further claim against them. And I told them I can't do that because I feel I do. And I just said, you know, I mean, I don't have the time or the money to get into a legal battle. Even like, let's say $1 million they probably owe me conservatively. And in this country, you could do pain and suffering. Maybe I could get a couple extra bucks. I just don't.
It's tough to litigate Scientology.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sign some paper that says I don't, you know, I just couldn't. It's just my own integrity. I couldn't, you know, I couldn't say that.
So what's happened since you left Scientology? I know I was talking to your wife a little bit earlier, and she was talking about how, you know, the friends cut off from her who, you know, those who were still in Scientology?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, Jesus. I got a little son, too. And he was in a little Scientology school. And he was 4 at the time. And no school was starting. We moved. So we're in the process of moving. So it was pretty, and moving to we moved to this big property out here. It's a big different thing, and it's a long way away. And they kicked him out of school.
It was the Scientology school?
No, yeah, they kicked him out. So he had nothing to do, and it fucked him up. Because he had, you know, why can't I see my friends? And that was all his friends. And, you know, and this was a time when, you know, mom and dad were really busy. I'm working. We've got a little tiny infant at the time. And we're moving to an enormous thing. And plus, this whole place you're in was under construction. There was a period we were in one of those Airstream type of things, you know, and nothing for him to do. And that was one. So yeah, our friends, I mean, I knew I could see I was pulling away. So I'm kind of an antisocial personality anyway, so I don't really hang around people, you know. But my wife, you know, with the kids and stuff, she, I remember there's a girl, a wonderful girl, Kelly Daniels, terrific chick, and she found out, you know, some ethics person told her, and she just was inconsolable, you know. So I know there were a lot of broken hearts on the other side, and now there's not. I saw some fucking kid like that I hardly know, you know. I do voiceovers too, so I went to a voiceover, and there was some kid from Scientology, and like usually if I'd see him at a voiceover, I'd be, hey Jason, you know, and he went, you know, and I just said, you fucking punk. That's all I said to him. It's just like, you see that's it in a nutshell. You know, both of them are alive. The Jason, because we're Scientologists, and because you're out. And so when you look at the thing about, it's really, really, the data shows from the fact, like Tori's husband left her. These people, their families are just, there's the proof. There's the proof. You're incapable of being a good friend if you're a Scientologist. Because you're a Scientologist. And Jason Beghe, the Scientologist, is willing to lose David, is willing to sacrifice certainly the quality of my relationship with mom and dad and brothers and sisters. And God knows who else that I could have made friends with that weren't Scientologists. Because whatever, maybe they just didn't understand or whatever. And my whole fucking, the most important thing in my life, for me, again, going back to who I was as a kid, was a guy who was interested in people. And I wasn't like judging people, like, I was just willing to be them. And maybe that's why I became an actor. And I grew up in New York. And I was like, this is people, people, people. Every day growing up, I would meet somebody. You're on the subway. And now, you know, people go to the Home Depot with me, and we go and I hang and we talk and we do a thing, and that's who I am. And to some degree, you're not able to communicate because you can't, you've got a bubble around yourself. It's this thing, and there's another way that part of the thing that made it a little bit easier for me to get out of Scientology than other people was that I would always look at the religion side. And it's like, because again, I was always interested in religion. And when they get exclusive, you gotta wonder, you know, in other words, you know, I don't have anything against anybody's religion. It's fine. But, you know, the evangelicals are the only ones going to heaven. And the Muslims are the only one going to Allah or whatever. And the Scientologists are the only people who know. I go, well, I don't think so. It doesn't make sense to me. You know, and there's an interesting story. Like one of the things that, like they said that, like one of the things that took the biggest hits on religion in this century was it fucked up a lot of people. You know, World War I was a vicious, awful war, different than others with gases and mustard gas, and it was terrible, and people were slaughtered, and it fucked up a lot of the Germans and the Americans when they go and they'd see their bodies, and they saw that they had the same Bible. They said, whoa, I thought God was on my side. And it's the same, and it apparently, so it's like this kind of, you know, when things are bringing people further away from others and distancing them, and Scientology to the degree that I'm a different species. You're a wog, I'm a homo novus. And I'm homo novus enough to be loving of you. You see what I'm saying? That's pretty bad. You know, and then you look at that, you know, and radical Islam, you know, it's like, it's not that different.
And yet Scientology says that they're not exclusive, that you can certainly be any other religion and be a Scientologist.
Well, let me tell you something. I talked to many terminals about this. Because after a certain point, when I'm down on the fucking bottom, after going through this, and I've never complained about money, and I'm not rich, but I never complained about it. You never had to fucking beg me for a fucking thing. I would go in and throw down. When I was ready to do it, I'd say, let's go. And it wasn't ever, I wasn't ready because I didn't have the bread. It was, I wanted to be ready because I wanted to, if I'm gonna fucking do this thing, I'm gonna do it, you know, and I gotta be behind it. And that's where I was at as a Scientologist. I told those fucking people, because they're always talking about, you know what they're doing? You know why they need all this money? You know what their real goal is? It's to clear the planet. To clear the planet. And you know what the good news is? We only have to clear about 3/4 of it, and just the fact of our being so theta, the other quarter will just clear instantly, and the SPs will crumble. And you saw the little wicked witch when she got water thrown on her because you made it about, that's what'll happen to the fucking SP. But I said to them, I said, because now after a while you start feeling like a fucking, hey man, this ain't like a little mistake. That cost me 50 G's. You know, and you start doing that a couple of thousand fucking times. You say, hey, I'm getting pissed. You know, that's a lot of money, okay? And you start getting into that. And they talking about all this thing. And I say, where's the money going? Nobody ever fucking gives you an answer. And they, you know, we're trying to clear the planet. I said, babies, I want to tell you something. I got news for you. There's no fucking way. You can't fucking clear Beverly Hills with these prices. There's no fucking way. It's physically impossible. Like they say, Obama, Clinton can't reach the number. There's no way. There's not enough money. It can't be done. So that's a lie. They're not trying to clear any fucking planet. And if they are, they're going to have to bring the fucking money. The price is going to have to go so fucking down. I said, I'll wait then. I'll wait. I'll do it next lifetime when it's $250 to go clear, because I can wait another 40 years, you know, and it'll save me $1 million, and I'd rather my fucking kid go to private school, you know. So fuck it.
How are celebrities treated inside Scientology?
All I know is how I was treated, and you know, my peers. I mean, that's who I hung out with. I know that it's a lot different. Actually, I do, only because, like, this was another question for me. Like, here I was. I had Ray Midoff, who's the top auditor on the planet, the senior CS international. I had RTC technicians, whatever, people. Plus, and I'm in LA, and I had my own auditor, the CS, the senior CS, and then they would all go over my folder. Then they'd send it to Richard Reese at Flag, who's the senior CS of Flag, and he'd go over the floor, and they would, you know how long it took me to get a fucking CS'd? Like, I'd do a thing and I'd make an origination like, you know, I'm not sure I like this. My next session would be about a month later, because they couldn't fucking handle, because there were so many vias on the comm line. So how was I handled? I was handled with the best attention ever. And I said, you know something? If this is the best of the best, that's what I was saying to him at the end. I said, how the fuck, and that's another thing I said about Clear the Planet. If you are the best motherfuckers in the world and you admitted you fucked the shit out of me, what happens to poor schmo at Orange County Org, who you're saying, you know, just, because when you first saying, well, you just need ethics or some fucking thing. He's still stuck in some ethics cycle going, and they're fucking, it's because they fucked him up and they said, no, you need more set checking. And he can't afford it or some fucking thing. And it's not even the right fucking thing. These guys don't know what they're doing. They're fucking hoping. You know what I mean? They're hoping. And the fucking crime of the bitch is they say, aha, we're going to work this out and I'm going to put in a little oregano. And the other guy says too much salt and here's your folder. And of course, we've got it CS'd and ready to go. And I'd be like, this fucking sucks. It's a wrong fucking item. And your needle's floating. I'd like to indicate it is the wrong item. And it go right back to the motherfuckers for another month. And meanwhile, I've already bought $100,000 worth of auditing. And it's more going through this thing. And then it's like just talking about some stupid fucking overts to start because I haven't had a session. Well, I masturbated and I mean, you're coming up with, who the fuck cares? I said, you know what I mean? I got nothing. It's not like I'm fucking killing people or beating my children or something. You know what I do? You know, internet porn and I don't know. You know, I got mad at work and, you know, you got nothing to fucking say. And this is it. And that'll fucking eat the whole cocksucker. It's just unbelievable.
Celebrities are used heavily for recruiting.
Yeah.
And they recruit young actors coming to town. I see every weekend in Backstage West, now it's up to 5 or 6 ads for different workshops they do. Are you familiar with
yeah.
at all?
Yeah, I gave one.
All about it?
Yeah, they got me to do one once. Yeah, people got interested and they signed up for courses. Yeah, and they use people to do that. I suppose they're targeting actors. That's what I've understood. It's good public relations for them, I suppose. Or if somebody hits big, it's thanks to Scientology. Yeah. I know a lot of people who do them, and at first they were very reticent to do some of the things, say some of the things that they're pressured to do. In other words, you know, Scientology, and say that Scientology, and that you use the ethics conditions all the time, you know, in your career and all these kind of things. But after they, yeah, but then after they've done a couple of them, they even start to believe it. It's very hard. You have to look. I mean, you know, these are decent, good people, and they. It's like. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to say so many alarming things, but I mean, it's, you know, how do people get involved in these destructive relationships just between two people? You know, there's a lot of people that get knocked around and come back. And, you know, I doubt the person knocked them around on the first date. And it's, you know, it's sad. And just looking at that, those celebrities, you sell a little piece of your soul when you tell that lie, but you've got it all justified that, you know, well, it's good people and it's for the church and, you know, I'm helping the group and and you got it thing. But I'm telling you, you know that you're full of it a little bit. And you know that if you really look at it, it's okay. And like in any other universe, you know, if that came up in session, it would be an overt. But not there. Because you're doing it, because they've got the whole thing, I mean, this whole hard sell and all this thing, I mean, and what they, you know, do to recruit, shit, actors is one thing. What about the little children they get into the Sea Organization? Billionaire contracts, you know?
Yeah, what's your reaction to the Sea Org and the way that Sea Org members are treated as opposed to the celebrity clientele? Are you aware of some of the things that happen to Sea Org members?
Well, I mean, I've heard things, and they seem quite plausible. I have never seen anybody been abused. I've seen people kind of screamed at. But I've never seen that kind of abuse. To me, I mean, it's, let's say, you know, you hear my story and I got out and I've got some sad tales and maybe I got ripped off for a good chunk of money and this, that, and the other thing. If you look at that as compared to somebody who joins the Sea Org, it's not even comparable. Can you imagine what it would be like to have a person at your beck and call and complete disposal, your slave, who not only was a slave by force, but by you know, you've got them by the mind, not the balls, you got them by the mind. So they're in love with you, devoted to you, to do whatever you want for their entire lifetime, okay? And you can just get them, so they're working, let's say, I mean, just a person working 100 hours probably is what the average Sea Org person works a week. I'd say about 80 to 100 hours a week. What's the minimum wage on that is, you know, I mean, it's not even minimum wage shit. I mean, they build the buildings. They do everything. High-tech stuff. I mean, is it worth at least $75,000 a year? So that's it. And then you get that for 50 years, 40 years, because they get them when they're teenagers, you know? And they, you know, and they've also hired a dentist who takes care of their teeth. They've also hired a, you know, all these kind of things. It's part of their organization. I mean, what is that? That's just millions and millions of dollars worth of free labor. I mean, it's not only that, plus your whole life. And what do they get in exchange? They believe that they're saving this sector of the galaxy. And that's enough for them. And they're the few people who have the ethical fortitude to make that kind of a commitment.
What's your reaction to the RPF?
Those are the rules of the game. But I mean, to me, what it is more of a way to control. You know, people end up there if they're, I would think, to some degree, they feel getting out of control. And so what do? Is you put more control over them until you got them back in control. And whether that's physical abuse or mental abuse or both, it's what it is.
When you're in, did you know the ins and outs of RPF, where families would be split up and people couldn't communicate for months or even years?
No, they don't talk about that much. I mean, as I got older, I mean, when I was in a little bit longer and spent more time, you know, at the upper organizations like Gold, I would hear about things like that and find out. But they try to keep that stuff away from everybody, especially celebrities, because it indicates, you know, the company line is that the Sea Org is made up of OTs. It's a group of OTs, okay? So for these people to fail, it's meaning that OTs are failing. And it's kind of like a one-shot clear joining the Sea Organization, and you have the EPF, which is the precursor, where you get ready. And that is supposed to, when you're finally posted in the Sea Org, the end phenomenon of the EPF, which is called the Estates Project Force, which is basically where you run around and do a lot of physical labor and take a couple of courses. The end phenomenon of that is supposed to be an OT. And which is interesting to me. I've many times blown my stack when I had to get in touch with somebody at Flag. I had to call the president, and of course they've got a new person answering the telephone at Flag. And of course Scientology touts itself as the cutting edge in communication, whereas they have somebody answering the fucking phone who does not speak English. However, they are an OT. They happen to be an OT from Poland who is now 14 years old and is now the main receptionist for an international fucking hotel. And you call and you say, what the fuck is wrong with this person? Well, they're posted and they should be. It's you got to get that job done. And if their stats are down, I'm sure they're back on the RPF if they hadn't learned to speak English quick enough. And that's not an exaggeration. Insanity.
So you didn't know that much about what's going on in the RPF, things like that?
No, I learned some things online, but...
Yeah. How are you as public kept away from the untheta that's going on in the real world? I mean, if there's, you know, some really negative story about Scientology in the paper or on TV, are you aware of that?
It's a funny thing. Like, I remember, my wife had seen Ted Koppel interview David Miscavige, and she thought that he kind of fucked up, you know, certainly wasn't very OT. And she talked to Susan Watson, who was the president of CC, said, you know, and Susan was like, it's almost like gaslighting somebody, you know that expression? Yeah, like, which is, you know, kind of make them seem like are you crazy? Oh, well, you know, he was just doing a tone scale drill, because, you know, Ted Koppel. And, you know, just kind of to just not is the thing. I think it's called dead agenting. And it was an interesting thing. I mean, I had a similar experience, well, just seeing Tom Cruise, you know, acting a little bit in a way that, you know, could distress a lot of people. And they make it into like, well, this is the greatest. Yeah, no, this is good. People just can't handle his level of enthusiasm, you know. And it's a little, okay. So that's the company line, and you go, okay, you know.
Even now, when with the release of the Tom Cruise tape and global attention to this, they're trying to spin it as a positive that all these people are coming to our site and learning about Scientology and joining.
Right.
Whereas the rest of the world was thinking, no, Tom Cruise is nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, that's the thing, though. In their own little world, it makes sense. The funny thing is that is a Scientologist talking to Scientologists. I mean, that's Tom Cruise, who's sitting there. I've done these kind of videos, being interviewed, knowing that his audience is people in the audience of an event that's going to be made up completely of Scientologists, and his job is to get some fire under their asses so they can jump out and start behaving more like him. And that's basically what it is. So that is in their universe. You could show that I mean, I think that's an unedited tape, but you know, that's basically him. I mean, I've been around the guy. I've been, you know, I twinned on him in some courses. Shit, I was getting auditing from Marty Rathbun. We were on Turnabout for a month and a half. It was like Tom would go in, then I'd go in. Tom would go in, I'd go in. So, I mean, I spent a little bit of time with him. And that's him. You know, he's a very fucking focused guy. And I mean, that's what I see. I mean, this guy is not a namby-pamby panty waist. He's a totally dedicated person. I can't call him a friend or know him even, but I can tell you that that's who he is. So if it seems crazy, that's interesting. That seems like the ideal to most Scientologists. And that's an interesting comment. That's what it is. Because they showed that as a, come on, babies, get off your asses. Don't you want to be like Tom? And it's interesting that the rest of the world, who are not caught up in that Truman Show, they see it as, well, what's wrong with this guy? It's crazy.
Very much to an outsider, as though your personality is stripped away and it's replaced, your reality rather, stripped away and it's replaced with Scientology's reality.
That's what I saw. That's what I've perceived. And the other dangerous thing, I mean, I watched a little of that Tom Cruise interview, and I'd seen it before then. You know, I went to that event. You know, that was an IAS event from where he won the Freedom Medal. The fact that, you know, there's some part in there where he says, you know, as a Scientologist, you just can't let that you can't pass that accident because you know you're the only person who can do something about it. And he does know that. You know? And to me, that's part of what I'm finding is destructive in terms of a religion that pulls people apart. You know, whereas it seems like, well, no, he's really helping people. So you could say that. But he's also putting himself above it. He's a homo novus. He's somewhat condescending. He knows he's going to heaven. Do you understand? You know, and I find that it's very worrisome. It really is. It's not. I don't think it bodes well for the planetary community when you have people sectifying into these groups that are the only way out. It starts to look crazy. Yeah. That's, I think, where war comes from.
You mentioned having done some of those videos like Cruise. You've done a lot of Scientology.
Oh shit, man! Let me tell you something. Like the main recruiting film for the Sea organization, I spent well over a year doing that with Up at Gold with David Miscavige, and he and I and one other guy on the final day, because we had to finish it for Sea Org Day. So if you ever get recruited to join the Sea Org, that'll be me talking, unless they hear this. Maybe they'll take me off. But we live in a world gone mad, where pain and strife create war and human suffering. A world rife with drugs. Yeah, it starts like that. It's very serious. And it's all about the Sea Organization, how it was formed, and blah, blah, blah. So apparently it's working. That's what I've heard, they told me. But their stats never go down. Yeah, then I did, the last thing I did before I left was they did this, I don't know what the hell they were calling it, but it was this big public push. They were going to put these videos in every org, so when new public walk in, they can learn what is CCR, what is the volunteer ministers, what is there's like, I must have done 10 or 12 of them, of these things. And that's my voice too. Shit. Then, of course, you know, the technology of Scientology is learning how to clear people and bring them to higher states of spiritual freedom. And that takes a lot of learning. You have to go to course. And part of the course is technical films where they tell a story. They're all written by L. Ron Hubbard, and some were even directed by him. But I'm in, Jesus, shit, I don't know, plenty of them.
So you think they'll have to purge you now?
I don't know if they'll purge me. You know, there was a girl who had left, and they kept her. I mean, they redid the film finally. There's some of them that it'll take a while to redo. I mean, they take us so forever to make a film anyway. I mean, it's shit. I did a little half-hour film for them. It took months. It took months. My experience personally, and what I've observed for myself, is that Scientology is destructive and a ripoff, and that it's very, very dangerous for your spiritual, psychological, mental, emotional health and evolution. I think it stunts your evolution. And joining the Sea Org is the greatest commitment to that. And it requires the greatest amount of commitment from that individual. You know, there's a different standard for a new public, for a Scientology public, an OT public, and then above that is a Sea Org member. And what's required and expected is far beyond. And so the degree to which you have to be completely devoted, and to me, from my perception, the more devoted you are, the more brainwashed you are. The less you are yourself, the more you are just a Scientologist. You know, when I was saying earlier, you know, you become Jason Beghe the Scientologist. Right? Jason Beghe the Sea Org member would be further gone than Jason Beghe the Scientologist. And I hear about some of these hardcore top execs that are now, these are heavy duties in the Sea Org, 25 years, made it to the top, leaving. I would imagine that the, to use your word, decompression for them could be in danger of the bends. I mean, that's some heavy shit to get that far in. I mean, like, to me right now, I'm just getting an inkling of, like, you take an idea about, you know, one of the big concepts in Scientology is overts, which are sins that you've committed. These are naughty things you've done. These are your peccadillos. These are your big, awful secrets that you would never tell anybody. These are some mistakes you made. They can all add up to overts. I'm beginning to get a concept, and maybe part of the reason why I'm doing this is to try and make up the damage for some of the people I've influenced getting into Scientology, because I feel bad. I feel that was bad. That maybe somebody would look to me and say, hey, he's cool, or you know, he's no fool. Whatever the hell they say. And shit, you know, that makes me feel bad. You know, that Sea Org slideshow, shit, COB told me that it's got a whole bunch of people into the Sea Org. It's working like gangbusters. So you ask me if I fully, really faced that without flinching, it would be a tough pill to swallow. I mean, that's some heavy shit. I mean, if you really, or if I really look at that, I mean, that's taking people's lives away. That's enslaving somebody's mind. And when I was talking about being, you know, the levels of ethics, where somebody doesn't even know they're out ethics, shit, baby, we're talking about people don't even know they're enslaved. That's a hard fucking thing to, I mean, shit, they can create their own reality where they will show up when they're 21 next lifetime and come back. That's fucking feasible. I'm talking about brainwashed. I mean, I don't know how far it goes. But I mean, it ain't a joke. And if Scientology is real, then something's fucked up. Because it ain't delivering what it's promised. That's for goddamn sure. It is not. It says it delivers what it's promised. Where's the fucking clear? You're talking about OTs. Let me meet a motherfucking clear. I would like to meet a fucking clear. I'm clear, right? I'm declared clear as a fucking bell. I went clear twice, as a matter of fact. Okay? So, I mean, you pull out a fucking copy of Dianetics, let's hear the definition of clear. And then they change it a little bit more and they say no longer has his own reactive mind, his own, so they can sell the OT levels. But what I see now it ain't a joke for me when you start talking about this. This is the bad stuff. I think, from my own experience and from what I've seen, I think the further up you go up the bridge, the worse you get. That's what I see. Some people are happier, but who's happy? It's I submit to you that it's not them anymore. And I know people that are troubled to death. They've just finished OT8 and they have migraines. Migraines? A fucking clear doesn't have migraines. It's an OT8, for God's sakes. Migraines? Migraines is an engram that you can handle in... I mean, come on. How do they... And they're still fucking gung-ho and head OT ambassadors and all this shit and running around trying to do the job of the OT8s who are really the powerhouses. And so they believe that. And so they're happy because I'm fucking doing something to save the planet. And they're running around doing this stuff, but it's just like that theta trap. It's just one guy's stuck in a theta trap and he's unhappy, another guy's stuck in it and he's happy. Because he's convinced himself and he's just, I mean, it's awful. What's worse? I'd rather be depressed than that. Than oy, oy, oy. It's sad. I mean.
So what would you say to people who are still in?
Well, somebody's still in, you know, listen, you got to make your own move. But it's like this. This is, hopefully this will communicate. Like I said before, I used to smoke. I had my little son, and I never smoked in front of my son. But kids are smart. And he'd find a cigarette, and he'd be going like this. And he couldn't even walk. And I said, I got to fucking quit. You know, and I couldn't quit. I tried to quit a whole bunch of times. I found this thing called the easy way to stop smoking. It worked for me, okay? And it was easy. It was very easy. It's part of the whole smoking thing, according to this thing that worked for me, is that it's not as bad as you think it is, okay? And so for somebody who's in, it's as far gone as I say you are as you go up. It's the difference between waking up and being asleep is the difference between waking up and being asleep. And it's like sometimes when you're asleep, you can still hear the shit that's going around because you're only half asleep. You're not that fucking brainwashed. So I'm here to tell you, this is what I say. Wake up. And you can hear it. There was actually a little process that LRH ran. Some processes are good, okay? And he used to run it, and he says sometimes you can actually cure somebody of insanity, which is what we're talking about. And the command is in tone 40, which means with any possibility of there being the communication not arriving and making the effect intended, is saying to the person, the insane person who's, you know, I'm talking about a fucking, you know, David Berkowitz, and here's the only command, come up to present time. Come up to present time. Because you're not there. And guess what? You are there. So, come on. Hello? Right now. There you are. There you are. That's what I say to that person. There you are. That guy. That guy. That guy right there. Not what you're thinking. Fuck what you're thinking. Hello, right there. There it is. And it's a no-brainer. So it's not that hard. It's like it really isn't. You know, me, I got out. I mean, it was a slow process, but I know that most of it. Here's what I'll tell you something. This is what I fucking know. I realize when you're doubting, you already know. You're just looking for a bunch, because you're stuck in a world of data. You're looking for data to make it so you can overweigh this data. And guess what? It's not about data. It's about you. I mean, which is exactly what Scientology says. This is because there's the irony. It's about you. It's not about any fucking data. There's nothing to figure out because you already know. You already know. Beside the fact that all these fucking claims, here's just a thing, if you have just a little thing. All these claims, how about a little bit of fucking evidence? How about some fucking evidence? I'm not talking about prove to me there's God. I mean, it's just some pretty fucking sweeping things of like, well, you know, you have to take responsibility for, you know, salvaging beings. Like this whole XENU thing is insane. You know what I mean? Do people believe it? Why? Because LRH said it. Just like I was talking about the psychs. There's no fucking evidence. It's just chatter about nothing. Then no fucking evidence. And they call it Scientology. Like it's got some fucking hypothesis and some fucking if then and here's the proof and this is it and there it is. And the fucking thing, and that's the other thing that I realized that listening to all those fucking congresses, this motherfucker, listen, if you're doing some Scientology, some science, you know, you gotta have a bunch of fucking people and you test the fucking thing. What did he do it on? 3 fucking of his friends? Wait, that's it. You're clear now. Okay, let's have a Congress. Because it worked. You changed the wording from come up to present time to come up to present time. And that's a Congress. And it worked on, you know, Joe. So yeah, go try that. And they fucking have these audits. I mean, it's insane. I think he believed it some of the time. You know what I mean?
So what would you say to current management?
Well, if you're, I don't get it. That's what, I mean, I don't get it. The ones who are like, I don't get it. I mean, you know, like the lower level people like that I know in the Sea Org, like, you know, Dave Pettit and stuff like that. Like Dave, I can talk to Dave right now. Dave, you know. You got to justify, you fucking know. That I know, that you know. And if either you're a liar and you're, you know, really evil and just want to get up on top and somehow win the thing, which I doubt, but it's possible. But the other side of it, you know. You know. And it's not just my fucking story, and you know that too. So you know. And so I would imagine, you know, these people that are, you get so justified, and that, you know, like when you get into a group, I would imagine that they have their own little group. And in my opinion, just to use more of that nomenclature from Scientology, another way to say is that the further up the bridge you get, and the further up the Sea Org you get, the more PTS you get. And that you think that PTS is, I'm feeling shitty, or I've got a cold, or I broke my leg, right? You think that's what it is. That's a level of PTSness, at least you're aware something's wrong. When you're sitting there and you're so fucking PTS that you think you're fucking saving this sector of the fucking galaxy, you know, all you can, I mean, it's just time, you know, what can you say? Either, hopefully, for your own sake, you're just a plain old SP and you want money and power. If you actually believe that shit, which I don't, because remember, you know me talking now, you can wake up just like that. If you really believe that, then you're so far gone. I mean, that is that's gone. That's gone. And I don't believe anybody's that gone. You just, it's like a guy who has a $500 a day habit. You know, he started with 1 toke or whatever the fuck it is. It's just more, you start eating more and more of this shit to the point where you believe, and you've got all these things, because I know if you're that far up in the fucking exec management level, you've committed so many fucking overts and justified so many evil fucking deeds, you know it. I mean, a blind man could see it. I don't even have to know what it is, I can tell. That's why I'm so happy Mike Rinder got out. And he was the worst piece of PR you guys had. Because I would look at that guy and you could just tell that guy was, he was bad. He had done a lot of bad things. I mean, I just saw it. You could tell, you know, I mean, they put him on to defend people, Scientology. You put the Dalai Lama on and you look at him and you say, there's a sweet guy, I don't know what Buddhism is, but you can tell that's good. Deepak Chopra, you know, okay, he wants a couple of bucks, but he's trying to help him. This is a guy who's like, yeah, I mean, he's dark and he was like, yeah, and it was like this thing, it's like, fucking thing, this is what you would cast as a villain in some cheap fucking B movie. What are you, crazy? And you know, did you believe it? I'm sorry. I mean, he's out. I mean, I hope he's out. That's great. But that's what I saw. You know, that's what I saw. You know, me personally, I look at David Miscavige. That's my definition of 1-1. He's good at it. You know, to lie to people like that, to take money, to have no sense of responsibility when you rip people off for hundreds of millions of dollars and then make them happy about it afterwards? You must be giggling. Arbitrary's canceled. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, that's insane. So, whatever, you know. But there's some people, listen, the bottom line is some beautiful fucking people in there. Public and Sea Org. Great people. Great, great, great people. You'd be lucky to have a friend like that. So, but that's the shame of it. And that's the part, you know, I don't, you know, maybe I've gone too far because I do not want to hurt somebody's feeling. I don't want to shake somebody's universe. I'm not here to, yeah, like right now I'm feeling a little, only because I don't, you know, maybe, yeah, well, there's the unsugar-coated version, but it's got a little English on it. And I don't, my intention is not to put English on any of this. I mean, I talk in a way that's full of English, but I'm talking about, like, I don't have an agenda. I don't think. I mean, I just, like most people, I guess I want to help. And I suppose that's why I got into Scientology. That is, because I wanted to help. And right now I'm trying to help. And I know that the Scientologists are trying to help. They're just trying to help. I think that's what most people are trying to do, is they're just trying to help. I don't want to be a terrorist about it and shake anybody up and upset anybody. I have the luxury of having gotten into Scientology and after having been in it, been out. And that's a perspective that those people who are in and are not out do not have.